First, we learned that Richmond landowners have had their title compromised by Aboriginal title that's been granted over top of their title by the BC Supreme Court. Now we know that the entire city of Kamloops, as well as Sun Peaks, is being claimed in the same fashion by two main bands out in this area. The first you may know very well, that's the Tecumseh Nation, the nation that made the false claim that 215 children's remains had been discovered in a former residential school here, run wild, not just across the country, but across the world. Now, with that claim came so much shame, so much admission from some people that this is a colonizing genocidal state. Yet there wasn't evidence, and there still isn't any evidence, that there is any actual bodies there. They have taken millions of dollars and never excavated as they were supposed to do with those millions of dollars. Now, I covered an event by OneBC just yesterday that was more focused on that unmarked grave claim, but I thought it was important to mention the amount of push that claim and almost how it relates to the fact that now people, residents here, property owners, are being told that Aboriginal title from that ban and another ban called the Skeetshin ban, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, have come together without their knowledge years ago to say, you know what, we should have Aboriginal titles just like what just happened in Richmond. For those of you who missed it, at our special website called endlandgrabs.ca, in August, you can go to that site and read about how the case Cowichan Tribes versus Canada was ruled upon. And again, that ruling meant that the fee simple title properties that British Columbians thought was such a strong and stable asset of theirs and protection is not as safe as it is. So today, OneBC Party wanted to do an event. That's our fourth more newer official party, and the leader is Dallas Brody, and they wanted to simply talk to the locals about what this could mean for their properties and where this is all coming from. Again, at endlandgrabs.com, you can read up about that a little bit more, about how British Columbia was the first jurisdiction in the entire world to take the United Nations Declaration for the Rights of Indigenous People and adopt it as law called DRIPA here. That law says that not just some, but all of our laws here will conform to what the United Nations says should be the rights for Indigenous people. That covers land rights. And by the way, the United Nations has a human rights declaration that covers all people. It would have given equal rights if we had adopted something like that. So I'll link that in the article below. But what I want to say before I show you what happened at some of the event here is I'm standing outside of the Prestige hotels and resorts because the event was supposed to be happening inside, but even after they set up, they were kicked out. That's the state of free speech over something so important here in Kamloops. Not one, not two, but 3 hotels in total said after getting calls saying, hey, you can't have this group talking about that. We're booted out of here. Anyways, that's enough of a background. We're going to hear what some of the locals, as well as what OneBC, her candidate, Jim McMurtry, and more had to say.
The venue here has now said that we need to leave. So we secured this venue, and now apparently out of the hands of the local manager here, who actually seems quite receptive to hosting us here today, their corporate headquarters apparently has told him that it's out of his hands and that we need to leave. So
what if we don't leave?
they would call the RCMP. We have a megaphone. So we will continue the event just outside here on the public street.
Are you guys aware there's an Aboriginal title claim over this hotel where this land is too?
It's quite possible that there's many claims all across the province. So you can email that and they'll respond back.
Thank you so much. That's the thing, Aboriginal title being over property land, it also affects businesses too. We're seeing businesses are already in the Richmond area having a hard time with getting financing for a project, at least one that's gone on record, or a city councillor said so. So what is the impact that these claims is going to have, even if the appeal doesn't stick in 5 years or so? Is anybody going to want to do business in British Columbia?
British Columbia is sitting at a pivotal crossroads. We have a beautiful land with extraordinary resources, abundance beyond the wildest imaginations. And we can be the greatest place to live, or we can descend into ruin, which is what's happening right now. I'm watching it in Victoria. The rot in our province is deep. It is evident in our streets, our infrastructure, our economy, and our culture. Joffrey Lakes Park is now subject to restricted use based on race. That's a public park, maintained by the province. Pronouns are filling the bios and email signatures of teachers. Ubiquitous land acknowledgements are the cries for help of a suicidal province, and that's just the start.
This was a very timely discussion. I mean, Kamloops and Sun Peaks is up for grabs with Aboriginal title. Can you tell us why it seems like landowners are last to know and how the heck that's even possible?
Well, I think the government lawyers have deliberately tried to keep private property owners out of the court cases. And in the Cowichan case, in fact, 2 applications were made to notify private property owners in the claimed area, and the judge refused the notification requests. So you ask yourself, why are you doing that? You're going to be taking people's lands and affecting their fee simple titles. It's a shocking situation. These people had a right to be heard, and they just woke up one day and found out that their title is defective and invalid.
What do you think people should know, not just fee simple title for land, but also businesses? What do they need to know about why this issue matters?
They need to know that their title that their business is on could be at risk now. There are 204 bands in British Columbia, all claiming Aboriginal title over 125% of the landmass of British Columbia. So this is only the beginning. And so we've had 2 claims. Well, we've got Haida Gwaii, we've got Richmond now, and now we've got Kamloops. And I understand there's another one coming which is out in Port Coquitlam. They're claiming the area that Riverview Hospital was on. Port Coquitlam. That's another one that's coming. And I used to wonder...
Just to clarify, that one's not, from what I could see, over private property. But in Kamloops and Sun Peaks and Richmond, it is.
Yeah, it's over private property, that's right. And so I don't know what's going to happen as a result of all this, whether they're going to start notifying property owners. But if people were asleep before about this issue, they're awake now.
Well, how long have you lived in the area?
I've been here about 30 years now.
And I've been about 26 or so, yeah.
So mother and son.
Mother and son.
Let's start with you. What was going through your mind when you went, oh gosh, Aboriginal title claim is over your land too?
Well, it didn't sit well with me because as far as I'm concerned, we're all Indigenous Canadians here. I don't think it's fair. I don't think the government has never brought this up before. If they did, it wasn't well publicized. So no, I'm gonna fight for my land. I don't think it's fair.
They do everything so secretly that, you don't find out about it until it's too late. But no, I agree with Rocky. I mean, yeah, I'm going to fight for it too.
Myself and my family, we're concerned. We're very concerned about where this is going to head. We see what's happening in the Cowichan area, and it's terrifying. As a homeowner in Kamloops, we have no idea what's going to happen with our property values. The investments that we've made and worked for, myself and my husband, are homeowners here. And it's terrifying to think you will lose everything that we've put into society. And who knows where this will go. And getting clarity would be great.
You're really concerned for your daughters. Tell us why.
They own a property. Their mortgage is coming up in the spring, and they're down at the coast. And is that the next place that the bands are going to take over? And then how do they get to keep their property? I mean, they've got quite an investment in there, at least over $400,000, because they've had it for 5 years. And where's that going? The bank, if they won't lend them money, are they not going to get to renew their mortgage? And then what happens?
What are the ramifications of say, me losing the title to my house? well, I don't have a mortgage, so it's just whatever the value is. Now, if no one has, if there's no demand, right, for the resale of homes, then the value of that home approaches zero.
Your retirement, your kids.
Not just my retirement, let's just leave that part alone because we already recognize that's wealth erosion. I mean, that's cultural Marxism. In fact, that is Marx. What will happen is that financial institutions, their balance sheets will be corrupted and they'll erode. And without our financial institutions and with the loss of trillions of dollars of equity, a province like British Columbia could collapse under Marxism. And this is what they're looking at, but they never actually said it when we were talking here. Private property will virtually erode in British Columbia, and without private property, you have communism, you have Marxist environment.
I also spoke with a realtor who wanted to just make sure people are aware that normally when you have your own title in BC, you have some protections that are called infeasibility protections.
And essentially what that means, if somebody is, let's say, if they have their land taken from them, if that parcel is then registered in the land title office to a new owner, that person is now officially the owner. So that land wouldn't be issued back to the person who was frauded, but there is something that's called the assurance fund, which is set up to basically financially compensate people who have been wronged.
So essentially, it could be the government that's on the hook. Is that what you're saying?
Well, technically, it is the government that's on the hook already because they're the ones that put this money aside. Typically, the money comes from dues from the realtor board, and whatever else. But something on this scale is completely unprecedented. However, the framework for what to do in a situation like this does already exist.
It seems homeowners, landowners are the last to know in this situation. But after some time of the decision, the mayor in Richmond did come out and do a meeting. Has anything like that been offered for you guys out here?
No, not yet. I believe the information is still fairly new. From what I've heard, the claim was made 10 years ago. However, from what I understand, only now perhaps coming to fruition based on the precedent set in the Richmond area. So I think a lot of people, we're just trying to wrap our heads around it this past week or two since the information's been made that this is something that we could be facing. So I'm not sure if our mayor has had a chance to actually reflect on the issue or come forward with the issue. The mayor of our city, he's a very wonderful man. However, he is actually being blocked quite frequently. I don't know if you've looked into what's happening with Kamloops and his lack of freedom of expression.
That's
so
correct,
I'm not sure
yes.
if he'd have the opportunity to defend or speak anyway. Kamloops is somewhat lacking a democracy at the moment. So.
The council are all against the mayor. I think the mayor's doing an excellent job, but all the council members, they always want to shut him down. Last I heard, he's working out of the basement in City Hall. They won't even allow him to, and I don't know if that's completely true, but that's what I've heard from several people.
It was also in the newspaper.
This is Mayor Reed Hammer Jackson. Now, a lot of concern from some of your residents here after learning that there is an Aboriginal title claim over private lands here. First question is, how long have you known about this?
I just recently learned about it, and I'm very concerned myself. So concerned that I did pick up the phone and I called former Chief Godfreyson and had a talk with them. And this has been going on for years. There's been deals made where the government's paid them, the band, certain money, and there's been a lot of things happen. And I think that we really got to get, the Kamloops City Council and the city have had a good relationship with the band, and I've had a relationship with them my whole life. Me and Shane played ball together and things like that when we were kids. And I think that, there's been agreements between the city and the Kamloops that have been going on since, Manny Jules days. They had agreements, and we meet with them. We only meet once a year. I'd like to meet more than once a year, but it's just kind of all pretty new to me.
So what do you think is going to be the solution? I know this is going to take time to know what even happens. Everybody's looking at the appeals in the Cowichan case. But in the meantime, how are your citizens going to learn more about what's happening? Are you guys planning any meetings?
Well, I think we're going to be. Well, I think we'll have meetings, and I think we got to be more open and transparent about what's going on. I don't know why. In Kamloops here we have a lot of closed door meetings, and yeah, I'd like them to be open meetings, and let's find out what the end goals are here. Like, what's the end goal? And the province obviously needs to get involved, and probably the federal government. So I think it's imperative that we meet, being open and transparent, and see what's going on, because I've been paying tax on my property for a lot of years. I don't want to lose my property either. No different than many people.
We will prohibit land acknowledgements at all publicly funded institutions and events. These acknowledgements are becoming a way of grooming us into surrender of our own country, and just burdening us with shame and sadness. And we should be celebrating our past. We were an incredible province and can be again. This is our home. Canada is for Canadians, and British Columbia is for British Columbians. And none of us are uninvited guests in BC. This assertion of Aboriginal title is becoming an absolute monster machine. And our party is saying that in order to stop all of this and to recover our province and have everybody working together, we have to start by immediately stopping all voluntary transfers of money and land to Indigenous groups. Then we have to repeal something called DRIPA, which is a Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, which was brought into force by a unanimous vote of the BC legislature. BC United Party and the NDP brought it in, which required that everything that's in UNDRIP, which is the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, be embedded into our laws, and that all of our laws be rewritten to be in alignment with this document from the UN.
The fact that you're standing outside for this very timely meeting from a political party, what does that mean to you that 3 different hotels in this area canceled this event?
It means that they're not letting us speak out. They're not letting us have our own opinion, not letting share with each other. It's horrible that this had to be removed 3 times. And that I find Dallas Brody is the only one speaking out about this. And I'm so proud of her. I mean, she's taken action. She's really getting down. She's letting people know you're in trouble. We're all in trouble. If you're just going to sit home and have your coffee and put your feet up, you just may not have a couch.
It's daunting. It's absolutely terrifying. It's reminiscent of COVID days, days when freedom of expression just simply were not allowed. And yeah, to have to move venues over and over again is, it's simply not okay.
There are things that I boycott. Right? Obviously, there are organizations and things like that that I wouldn't give my time to, or any financial support. The current event that has been waylaid, really, but nothing stopped. Everybody got their point across, and everybody saw to it. And honestly, I think it's healthy that we know who it is that we can depend on versus who we can't.
I think it's disgusting. It's not right. I mean, but then I guess everybody that owns these buildings, they're just afraid to get involved, even if they agree with it. Yeah.
Yeah, the free speech is going by the wayside. A lot of these buildings that are owned by corporate entities that don't live here, and I don't think that's right either. But people will see through that and maybe not patronize them now.
Well, obviously, there are some powers in Kamloops that are trying to shut us down, and I'm not sure who that power group is, but they made phone calls, and it's gone out across the wires, and they shut us down. And this one, they did it right at the last minute when we were just setting up, getting ready to start. The manager felt terrible about it, actually, but he was told by headquarters, get them out of there.
Well, I did get the media contact from the manager. I'll send out an inquiry and try to get more information about it. This concern over land is widespread in the province, across the country, really. And the NDP is being criticized for not even really fighting on behalf of landowners in the appeal properly. I've covered that before. But some might be looking to the BC Conservatives and then also looking at you and feeling like, you know what, I gotta go with the BC Conservatives. They have more seats and maybe you guys are too controversial. What do you say to those types of concerns?
Well, I don't know why people would say that we're controversial, because OneBC is upholding all of the things that the original Conservative Party was running on. We're simply restoring those values and doing what we should have been doing in the Conservative Party. As for, the Conservative Party, I don't know what they would do about all of this. I know what we would do. We'd immediately push pause on all of this and say all of these land claims need to stop until we sort out this one single case has to be sorted out and find out what we're going to do about this. And OneBC would immediately, we have a plan for how we would stop all of this anyway, but I don't know if you want to hear about that. Do you want to, we would,
why not?
We would stop all voluntary payments of money to all bands in BC immediately, stop all voluntary land transfers, and we would repeal DRIPA immediately, and we would declare the UNDRIP of no force in effect in BC. And then we would do something along the lines of what Danielle Smith is doing in making demands of the federal government that Section 35 of the Constitution Act of Canada needs to be amended or repealed. It's causing untold economic damage to our province, and we can't continue this way. And the other thing is we would demand that the Indian Act be repealed and that all of these reserves just start functioning as townships or municipalities, and band members be given fee simple title to their properties and integrate it back into the normal economy of BC.
Those are sweeping changes. They would obviously come with some pushback. So what do you say to people who would say, oh, that is so bad for reconciliation and helping Indigenous communities?
Reconciliation is not helping Indigenous communities right now. Reconciliation is just a happy talk, nice word, but it's not doing anything for the average Indigenous kid or person who's just living on reserve. What we're seeing is that this money, and it's billions and billions now, it's been a huge uptick since the fake graves discovery or announcement. We're looking at money that's going to the neo-tribal elite, chief and councils, who are becoming millionaires, billionaires, and then it's going to lawyers, lots of lawyers, accounting firms, the big accounting firms, and it's going to consultants and developers. So the money isn't trickling down to the people who we thought we were going to be helping. And we're seeing that the lifespan of Native people in BC has dropped by 6 years since the NDP took power 9 years ago. That's a devastating factoid right there. And 70% of the children in foster care right now are Indigenous. This shouldn't be happening. Why is this? And then so many people on the streets, Indigenous, drug addiction, fentanyl deaths. It's terrible. So if money were the answer and this was working, we'd see an improvement here. And what we're seeing is things are getting worse. So it's obvious that what is going on now is not helping the average Indigenous person.
Now, last question. You guys have a documentary coming out, Making a Killing. I believe it drops December 1st.
December 1st.
Tell everybody a little bit about that and where they can find it.
So it's going to be at makingakilling.ca, makingakilling.ca. That's the name of the documentary, coming out December 1st. It will also be on my X account and probably out on YouTube. And if we get put off YouTube, we'll go to Rumble. So, but it'll be widely available. We're having a premiere of that event on December 1st in the legislature, and hoping you'll be there. And it's a documentary that basically gives the other side of the story of what's been going on. Because as you know, I was expelled from the BC Conservative Party for asking questions about the 0 bodies that have been found at the Kamloops Indian Residential School. And ever since then, I have learned so much about what's been going on. And it's been a journey for me. And so here I am realizing that this whole reconciliation thing has many dark undertones.
Anybody that does care about their land or any of these issues that are plaguing the province of BC, get involved and look up OneBC.
Yeah, she didn't say one thing that I disagreed with. I think she did very well today. I enjoyed her speech and all. Yeah, I think she was wonderful. And OneBC.
I think she'll go places, yes. I hope so.
Yeah.
At Rebel News, we don't back down from bringing you the other side of the story, even if that means at times there are physical risks to doing so. Yesterday, when I covered a OneBC event, things got a little tricky. So then and today, I've had to have security by my side to make sure myself and my camera person, Julia, are safe. If you appreciate the journalism that we do, please help us cover one of our biggest expenses. That is our security costs. And you can do so by donating what you can at journalistdefensefund.com.